As I'm referring to it, trauma is a collection of all of the crap that has accumulated in our heads over the years from past lessons and past ideologies that have just shaped who we are and our self-concepts, our self-schemas, and shaped how we look at the world. At times like this, we're being called to address the trauma, to dig into it and to look at it. But many of us don't. So what do we do about it? Well, the first thing I want to recommend is therapy. I want to recommend this one first because, again, everyone's level of trauma is a bit different. And you might find that as you dig into your own trauma, there are layers to it. Traumas are like ogres. Layers. And if your trauma is especially bad or negative, then having someone objective help you sort through them, make sense of them, and start working on a game plan to overcome them may be beneficial. Therapy does not make people weak, but rather helps them organize their thoughts better. And honestly, we're living in a day and age where therapy is much more accessible and there are a variety of different types of therapy you can get. Your type of therapy doesn't have to be the stereotypical "let's talk about our feelings" thing that we often see on TV as what therapy is. It can be much more proactive, working towards solutions and changed behaviors and habits. There are a lot more options that people might not be aware of, and therapy can be a great way to work on what's going on, especially if you don't know where to start and you're a bit nervous about facing your trauma. It can be a safer environment to work with someone else, not just by yourself. Something that's worked for me a lot is journaling. Now, I'm not talking about Doug Funny, like, "Dear Journal, today this crazy shit happened." Like, I'm not talking about journaling like that. Journaling through trauma and negative thought patterns is what I often refer to as opening the wound, which I know is kind of a gross analogy, but bear with me on it, right? Be forewarned, this ain't easy and it sucks. Doing journaling like this is not fun and it is difficult. Which is why a lot of people just end up continuing to live with their trauma and not addressing it. Doing journaling like this may reawaken old, hidden emotions connected to the trauma, fears and anxieties that have been dormant, because essentially, you have to address the crap that has been mucking up your brain and affecting all your actions and behaviors for years. And the longer you wait, the harder it is to break through those cycles. Bear with me, because it gets better. Let's talk about the journaling first. Essentially, in journaling like this, you're looking at the trauma and you're having a conversation with it. What are you? What have you taught me? Why are you here? You can even go so far as to who taught you to me. And this requires an intense level of honesty with yourself. You can't be shy about where things come from, even if it means outing people you love. Remember, you're journaling this. Your journal should be a safe space for you. It shouldn't be a space where you have to feel like you need to censor yourself or cover yourself up. You know, this is a journal that's just for you and only you should be able to see it. So don't censor yourself. Don't be afraid of outing people. But also, if you gotta call out your parents or guardians or loved ones for some bad lessons, that doesn't mean that you don't love them. It doesn't mean that they did a bad job. In many cases, it means that those who loved you and taught you these things were simply doing what they felt was right at the time with the skills and the knowledge they had then. As you grow and change as a person throughout your life, you have to give the same space to the people who raised you and taught you growing up. You're here to address and change those patterns so you don't continue teaching them on. So be honest with what you write and acknowledge. You're tearing off a band-aid of a wound that you never really cleaned and realizing the scar is ugly and gnarly and even hasn't healed correctly. And you realize if you want it to heal better, so you can move and live your life freely, you're gonna have to go in there and see what the problem is. So you open that wound and damn, does it feel fresh, like exactly as fresh and as raw and painful as when you first got it. And you might feel weak and vulnerable and maybe even nauseous, and you know you gotta clean it out in order for it to feel better. And then you find it, the source of the infection. This might not be one journey with the cleaning supplies, it might be a few, but you start cleaning and brushing it away. And soon, the inflammation might go away. It might start to reduce. The pus stops collecting, and even the wound heals in a more healthy way. Sure, it might still scar, leaving a little bit of a trace behind, but you are now aware of what's happened beneath because you've done the work to clean it out and take care of it. Because with trauma, just like with emotions, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be looked at and acknowledged. You need to become aware of it and then feel the things that you didn't as a child because you were just a child. Take the space to heal that child that still exists within you, that has carried all those lessons and has made it difficult for you to cope with the trauma learned, whatever it is. If that opening the wound analogy is a little bit too much, I've got another one for you. Think of every lesson that you learned as a child as a seed that was planted in your young mind. With each planting, it starts to sprout a new way of thinking. As you watch the world as you grow, TV, news, books, even ads and things that you're not completely aware of, it feeds all those seeds until ultimately the seeds become vines and tendrils that move your limbs and speak your words, that capture your thoughts. You're an adult now. Which of those seeds do you still want in your head? Because you have the power to dig up thought seeds if they no longer suit you and replant something better. But it requires effort and gardening. Journaling has been essential for me in dealing with issues like this, and I genuinely believe that for those of us who are trying to manage just everyday trauma, just lessons and harmful thought patterns that have been ingrained in us since childhood, I genuinely believe that journaling can help us work through them, especially because it's just good for us to realize where our own thoughts and beliefs come from. It may not be immediate, but what I have found is that in working through these things, in journaling, in taking the time to address my harmful thought patterns, I've felt freed. I no longer feel tied down and restricted by my thoughts, even when months later, I find myself having to work through another layer of that trauma if it's connected to something I've just worked through. But I know I can do it because I've been in that cave before. I've been in that dark place of having to work through it. So starting to become aware of it and work on it and go through it, you start to realize that you can do this. And it's freeing, not just because you're freed from the harmful thought patterns and the thoughts, but you become freed because you realize how powerful you are to be able to work through it. And then you know that you can do it again if it comes up. I feel more open and I see the value in vulnerability and connection with others. I feel and believe that journaling and the work I've done, the opening the wound work, has improved my relationship with others just as much as myself. And while I can't guarantee that your journey will be exactly the same, because, hey, we're all living different lives, have different experiences, have different trauma, and everyone's journey is a little bit different, I cannot recommend enough the attempts to step forward and try. We get this one shot to be this person in our lives, and honestly, we might as well just make the best of it. And I hope that that's helped someone out there who might be dealing with some stuff. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on you. Don't give up on this life that we're living, because it all can and will work out in the end. Much love to you all. Anya out. Bye.